I really had no idea until really 2004 when Mr. Haynes released my legal opinion at a June 22nd, 2004 press conference of many of the other things that had occurred since I had retired from active duty. So I reached out within my military community and no help. And also, once I submitted my opinion with the request from General Dunleavy to Southcom, I never received a phone call, I never received an email, I never received anything from Colonel Superville or his staff asking me anything, like, are you a lunatic? What were you thinking? Or, you know, great opinion. Or I received nothing from him, and until it came back down from the SecDef, I had no idea what was going on. I fully expected General Hill to make that policy decision.
But did you expect there would be different and additional legal analysis, and that
yes, sir.
Your opinion? Wait a minute. That your opinion would not be the one that would be relied upon.
No, sir. In fact, one of the reasons.
No, sir.
Sorry.
My question was,
I'm sorry.
Were you surprised that your opinion became the opinion that was relied upon? Did you expect? Shocked. Okay. Why were you shocked?
Well, because one of the reasons I had explained to Colonel Superville that I needed his input was because, and people that are in the moment, or the people that are participating on the island in, like, the interrogations, don't always have the best perspective, and so to get it off the island was my goal. To get it to General Hill, where people had all the resources at their command, they could call military justice experts, whatever, anyone they needed to, and to make a sort of, if you want to say, a calm, rational, objective decision, I thought was the best thing possible. So I fully expected General Hill's staff to write up something, and then also perhaps approve a very narrow set of interrogation practices, and again was very surprised when that did not happen.
And General Hill was the Southcom commander, right?
Yeah, yes, he was.
Okay, thank you. Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral Dalton, did you ever see Lieutenant Colonel Beaver's memo?
Yes, Senator, I did.
Did you ever get a request from her to give your opinion?
Senator, I don't recall the telephone conversation that Colonel Beaver related.
So, when you saw it, what did you think?
When I saw the memo, I believed that there were some serious deficiencies in it.
Who did you tell?
Well, the first thing, I discussed, as I recall, I discussed the memo with my staff. I don't recall that at that time I discussed the memo with anyone else.
Mr. Mora, do you recall seeing Lieutenant Colonel Beaver's memo?
Yes, Senator.
What did you think?
Sir, I thought it was an inadequate treatment of very sensitive and very difficult issues.
What did you do?
I immediately took it to Mr. Haynes and pointed that fact to him.
Lieutenant Colonel Beaver, I think I understand better than I've ever understood the role you played in this, and bottom line, no one made you write this memo. That was your own work product, correct?
Yes, based on Lieutenant General Dunleavy's request to send up interrogation techniques to General Hill, it would not have been appropriate for me to simply say no legal objection or no comment, and so...
But there was no pressure for you to reach the conclusion?
No, there was no pressure. It was generated by me and my staff at the request of the Military Intelligence Task Force.
You felt you were hung out a bit?
I have no animosity, but I understood at the time I was hung out by the Southcom SJA.
Okay.
Certainly.
Fair enough. During this debate about what kind of techniques may be employed in the future, it was all to try to get better information. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Was waterboarding mentioned?
The discussion, well, maybe in two parts I can answer this. One, there was a Navy doctor, just happened to be assigned on the staff, the hospital staff, who was deployed there for 6 months, and he had been at the Navy SEER School for, I could be wrong, 2 years assignment. And he relayed to myself, as well as members of the intelligence community at Gitmo, that he had observed and again, I could be wrong if it was 2,000 or 3,000 sailors, service members who had been through that school and had endured waterboarding, and he described it to me and said that out of that number, only 2 failed, and I'm using his words, failed to give it up, and that was that they were 2 SEALs who were used to controlled drowning. And he said everyone else gave it up. So I became aware of that for the first time, as well as members of the intelligence, and I say community because there were many different people there from different commands as well as DIA. And so what Jerry Pfeiffer and a few of the others discussed was not literally the board, but putting like a wet towel in your face to make you...
But bottom line, it's fair to say that someone was contemplating potentially using this technique.
If it could be done legally and, you know, in terms of the medical review of the detainee and those kinds of things in a very controlled, supervised setting, yes.
Okay.
But only, and part of this is that you don't jump to one thing first. I mean, much of it that I learned from my professionals is that you build. I mean, you use what works.
Sure.
And that could be just interviewing. And so it's not just a matter of, I think, an impression of everyone gets the waterboard.
If I ask you the question, does the UCMJ prohibit waterboarding? What would you say?
I think that's a difficult answer, and that's what I struggled with in my opinion, and I'm not a military justice expert, and I tried to raise...
What is your legal background?
I'm a jack of all trades, basically. I've done a little bit of everything, administrative law, criminal law, I've been a prosecutor, intel law, I've deployed with Special Operations Command in Desert Shield Storm, psychological operations, so just really a number of... I've been a man...
So when you called Admiral Dalton, what were you trying to get from her?
Because Manny wouldn't help me, I was trying to get help from her staff in dealing with some of these difficult issues.
Admiral Dalton, why didn't you come in and help?
As I indicated, sir, I don't recall that specific conversation.
Well, once you saw the memo and you had concerns about it, why didn't you do what Mr. Mora did?
What I did, Senator, when I received the memo, was I recognized that there were policy and legal issues involved, and I decided that what I needed to do at my level was to conduct a further legal and policy review, as General Hill's memo had requested. And so I asked my staff to begin doing legal research and to begin setting up a legal and policy review.
What were your conclusions?
Well, of the legal and policy review, that I did not actually conclude that process at that time.
Mr. Mora, how long did it take you to understand this was the wrong road to go down?
Sir, when this was, as soon as I heard the rumor that abuse was going on in Guantanamo, I acted every single day until the rescission of those interrogation authorizations were made by Secretary Rumsfeld approximately 3 weeks later. But when I saw the December 2nd Rumsfeld memo and then reviewed Lieutenant Colonel Beaver's legal memorandum, when I saw that the memorandum was completely unbounded concerning the limit of abuse that could be applied to the detainees, I knew instantaneously, sir, that this was a flawed policy decision based upon inadequate legal analysis.
Is it fair to say some of the senior judge advocates shared that view?
Sir, every judge advocate I've ever spoken to on this issue shares that view.
Given what you know about the way we're doing business now, do you think we're in the right place?
Senator, I'm not current on what the actual policies and practices are today. My impression is that the military is in the right place. I have doubts about the intelligence community, however.
Thank you. All right. Nothing further.
I don't have my chart. You all set? Senator Pryor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.